can't feel my face. Coffee spilling all over the place. Forgot the sticks, we're turning around. Another weekend in some hockey town. With a pucked up parents, frozen toes, big hearts, bad luck. With a pucked up parents, one more tourney, one more puck. We're broke, we're loud, we love this grind. Cause our kid just scored and we lost our minds.
Greetings and welcome to Pucked Up Parents. I am Michael, host of Pucked Up Parents. We are at episode 21. Wow, 21. I don't remember much of that year. Angela, how you doing?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Pucked Up Parents. Thanks for joining us again on our 21st episode. I'm sure we'll be more entertaining than Michael's 21st birthday. We are novice first generation hockey parents in a non traditional hockey town talking about everything we've learned and experienced in our 12 years of experience as hockey parents. Join us as we chat about what we've learned and what we still need to learn.
For the record, I had my shirt off on the street on Barchstone Road in Louisville, Kentucky, pouring 2 beers on top of my head. So I'd like to think I was very, very entertaining on my 21st birthday. But yes, we are here to help guide you as novice youth hockey parents into the world of youth hockey, which is absolutely crazy. But if you're a senior, a seasoned vet of youth hockey, come laugh at us as we try to fumble our way through youth hockey. So let's get into topics. Angela, again, we're in the off season. Did hockey affect us in any way in the prior week? What do you got?
I think both of our kids went to open ice or stick and puck last weekend.
Yeah, it's getting pretty sad that one went to the good rink and the other one went to a local rink that gets kind of pondy. I did drop our 12U off at the rink for stick and puck, and it was packed. And it's probably because tryouts are right around the corner. When I say right around the corner this weekend, they're absolutely this weekend. A ton of kids just there getting those last training sessions in before the tryouts happen.
I think some tryouts around the area were happening last weekend too. So I think you're right. A lot of kids are just getting on the ice the last couple of times before tryouts. And honestly, before some of our local rinks start shutting down because of the weather, it's about 80 degrees outside right now. So it's
Yes.
getting to be that time. But we also had some off-season stuff going on. Our oldest is playing lacrosse, and our younger kiddo is playing flag football. So they both had games in their respective sports this weekend as well.
And lots of driveway hockey happening. So I cringe when my classics are sitting in the driveway or the doors are open because I'm watching a hockey ball fly through my 72 Ford F100 pickup truck windshield, which is not easy to replace. What about this? Our oldest went for ring sizing. Now, unpopular opinion. I think the rings are kind of, I don't want to say they're lame. I mean, it's cool to have. It's better. I guess trophies and medals only go so far. Do you ever wear the ring?
Okay, let me back you up. You were not a sports person, okay? So back in the day, sports, you did get a ring for state championships. I do remember that from back when I was in high school. When a team won a state championship, they got a ring. I think nowadays the rings are overdone. I see a lot of like baseball teams, hey, they won a tournament and they got a ring. Even my dad playing senior softball, 70 and older men's softball, comes home from tournaments with these weird rings. So, yeah, I think they're overdone to some extent, but for a state championship, I think it's entirely appropriate.
Again, I guess it is entirely appropriate, and it's something different than your typical run-of-the-mill medal or trophy, so we'll see what it looks like. I'm sure it's gonna be awesome. I'm sure I'm gonna be jealous. Yes, I never had a ring, but I remember Major League Baseball, the World Series ring, of course, and Super Bowl. The Super Bowl winners got the ring because Ace Ventura, if you remember, he based his whole investigation on the ring. So we'll see what they get. Even like the box is supposed to be elaborate. So I'm curious to see what this thing looks like once it comes out. And
I
if
think it really is more of a trophy than a piece of jewelry that you wear on a regular basis. Because let's face it, how many 16 to 18-year-old boys do you know that are walking around wearing rings on a daily basis?
this is your son we're talking about. He's probably gonna wear the damn ring to his senior prom. I wouldn't put it past him for 1 second.
I don't think it's gonna be complete in time for him to wear it to prom, but
It
anyways,
wait a minute, one more.
um
If I get a ring, will you wrap yarn around it and put nail polish on it and wear it since
no,
my
and if
girl?
anybody that is younger than us that doesn't get that reference, that was a class ring thing that was done a lot back in the day. A guy would give his girlfriend his class ring, and she would adjust the size using some sort of string or yarn or wear it on a necklace around her neck. Very old school, weird. We're showing our age once again.
Alright, let's get a recap of the last episode. What did we talk about last time?
Last episode, we talked about hockey on the screen. We talked about some documentaries, some TV shows, and movies that all feature hockey prominently.
I'll summarize real quick. There's Shoresy, and then there's everything else.
Jeez,
But
and
no,
Shorzy.
I was scrolling Netflix last night and Slapshot's on there. It's one of those ones that says like it's leaving soon. So Slapshot is out there, and I think we do need to watch it maybe this when you get back from your trip.
Yes, I think we do need to watch that. That's an older movie, and I've heard it referenced many times in hockey circles. So we'll take some time maybe this weekend to do that.
All right, so end of season. We're in the middle of nothing right now. What are we going to talk about on this episode?
Well, we're not in the middle of nothing. Youth Hockey World, we just referenced it earlier. Tryout season is underway under tryout season. So, we wanted to talk today about hockey cost and fees because guess what? As soon as you're finished with tryouts, you're going to have to be paying fees or looking at what fees will be associated with whatever team your player made.
That's right. They want their money immediately. So for this episode, get out your checkbooks, get out your credit cards, find that local plasma donation center. Hell, see if you can sell that left kidney on the black market because we are going to talk youth hockey cost. Angela, what the puck am I doing? What do we got first?
Well, I'm just going to take you through what we go through when we are signing our players up for tryouts.
Just to reiterate what Angela said earlier, this is our experience. So we're in Northern Kentucky. We do play Cincinnati. So I'm sure these fees are probably going to vary age to age, location to location, but this is just our experience it, and we're gonna ballpark it.
Right, and that's what I've kinda done. I've tried to just generalize what fees we're used to paying. Different associations are gonna do things differently. They're gonna include certain things within team fees versus paying for them separately. We'll break all of that down, but it really all starts with the USA Hockey fees. In order to play youth hockey, we have to pay a fee to USA Hockey, who is kind of the governing body over youth hockey in the United States. That fee is paid annually to become a member of that association, and it's graduated based on your child's age. The younger the kiddo, the cheaper it is. So they hook you in those first few years. If your child is born in 2020 or younger, the fee is only $17. But our oldest, and actually both of our kiddos are in the range of the $81 a year for the fee.
Okay, I don't know if you're gonna go down to all these fees from 2020 younger, 2008, 2013, 2007 older, coaches' fees and officials' fees. Here's what bothered me about these fees that you have down, and I assume you picked these up off of the USA Hockey website. Is that safe to say?
Absolutely. Yep.
My OCD is off the rails because $17. Here's 20, keep the change, or here's 15, can we just lower it?
Look,
$81, I'm gonna give you
I'm
$80 check, and then I'm gonna give you a dollar's worth of pennies just to be an a-hole.
I'm sure it's all based on some calculation out there. I don't know how they're calculated. I do know they're graduated as the child gets older to the U18 age group, is the highest fee. Right now it's about 81, it's $81 based on the USA Hockey website. And then as they get older, so 2007 and older is $54. I'm
Not
assuming
55, 54.
look, take your OCD to the therapist. That's all I can say. And then there's officials fees based on what level official. There are different levels of officials. So there's high ranking officials and, kind of base level officials. There are different fees based on that as well. And I'm sure that
Right.
has something to do with training.
Yeah, your officials, and we'll have an episode on officials because I know the ones with like the armband or like certified or something like that in the highest level, and then you just have you might have a 12-year-old teenager out there reffing a game.
Right, and the 12-year-old teenager is gonna be on that lower level, and they're gonna be reffing a 10U game versus maybe a kid that just got out of college who is a higher level official who is reffing college level games, things along those lines. There's varying, degrees of official fees there, but just wanted to point that out, and, our signups for tryouts always start with that USA Hockey fee, and from there, then you go to the association where you're gonna try out, and you're gonna pay a fee for trying out, and we've seen everything from, I think, $50 on up to about $500 for a
We did,
tryout.
yeah, we did see a $500 one, and it was obviously, I think this goes with like the commitment fees where the money goes towards your overall fees. But if you don't join, I guess they don't want people popping into every single rink trying out just to get ice time when they're not going to commit to the team. Safe to say.
Right. And yeah, I think that's safe to say. And I think the other thing is you need to read the fine print, see what that tryout fee includes, see if there is, I've seen often an early bird special. The earlier you sign up, maybe you get $5 or $10 off of that fee. And then some of the associations, I think, will take that tryout fee and pay it towards your team fees. Others won't do that. You really just kind of need to read the fine print there on whatever association or team your player's trying out for.
I don't know if you know the answer to this question. So let's say I have a 15-year-old kid and he tries out for, I don't know, A, double A, all the way up to triple A. Do the prices vary based on skill level?
I think it can. We have not had that experience. Those differences in fees come to us in our league or team fees, but the tryout fee is the same for the association as what we've experienced. But I have heard of some other associations where that tryout fee is going to vary based on what play level your player is going to try out for.
Well, and the good news about tryouts is, and we said, don't put your kid out there just to get the ice time, but most of the time the tryouts are right on top of each other, if not at the same time. So it really limits and stymies you as much how many you can actually go to or how many actually you can actually pay for.
Right, right. And I don't want to get dive into too much of that because there's a lot of other logistical things with tryouts on when the tryouts are and when you have to make those decisions and all of that. I think we touched on that in one of our earlier episodes. So today I kind of wanted to stick to just really the fees and the costs associated with this. And I want to point out, I mentioned earlier, read the fine print. Some of these fees are non-refundable. Your tryout fee, if you signed up and then your child decides or your player decides they don't want to play, that could be a non-refundable fee. So again, read the fine print. I'm going to say that a lot throughout this episode of read the fine print because it's important
We
that you
know from
know what you're
experience.
you know
We
what you're
know from
signing up
experience,
for.
dude.
I also work in a legal field, so I'm pretty good at reading fine print and figuring out all of those kinds of things that need to be looked at. Anyways, so you've signed up, you've paid the USA hockey fee, you've paid the tryout fee, you've decided where you're going to try out. Well, if you're new to this game, you got to buy equipment or you have to have equipment to try out. There may be a cost associated there. I know that our kids, when they started playing, were using rental equipment and then we kind of switched over to some used equipment. That's something to take into consideration there as well, especially if you're a new player. But older players or players who've been around a while, like our oldest son, is really hard on equipment. We're regularly replacing equipment that has been damaged or just needs to be replaced, whether he's grown or it's damaged or whatever.
To buy the equipment in the off season, like after it ends, to catch people who are quitting or people who are moving on, as opposed to like the beginning of the season when probably the market is hot and everybody's demanding equipment.
I think that's a good idea if you can do that, if you have that availability to go ahead and predict what size, especially growing kids, predicts
Yeah.
what size your player is going to be next fall. That's actually something I was going to talk about a little bit later. But yeah, we've done a lot of that buying used equipment, somebody who's maybe outgrown equipment or they're not playing anymore. Or looking at, some of the local hockey stores, they have last year's model on sale because they're trying to liquidate that because, the next bigger and best things coming in the door.
Here you go, son. I found these Reebok skates from 1997. Good luck. Now let's take it. All right, I got a 12-year-old or I got a kid, and I'm putting him in front of you like a Ken doll wearing boxer shorts. I got to put them in equipment, top head to toe. Ballpark me a figure. What are you thinking?
I mean, I kind of just ballparked picking up used equipment. whether it's on Facebook Marketplace or Sideline Swap or Play It Against Sports, those kinds of things, or if you find a good deal somewhere, I think you can get, especially a youth player in full equipment for 375 ish.
Okay.
I think that's a low end estimate. Again, looking at used equipment, not top of the line stuff. If you have questions on equipment, we did an interview a few weeks back with Michael Patrick, who is a hockey equipment guru and can take you through a lot of that. I think he gives a lot of good advice on equipment in there. But again, just want to note that if your child is interested in playing hockey, equipment is definitely a cost consideration.
Yeah, would you say there's sticker shock?
Ha
Sticker
ha
shocks?
ha. Yes,
But
sticker
we did
shock.
and we did a equipment interview with, Patrick Michael, and we did a earlier one of our early episodes, 1 or 2, also goes over the equipment, what equipment is needed from the cup to the skates to the elbow pads to the shoulder pads. We covered all that, but yes, great ballpark, 375 at lower end. I would agree. Now we get into the league and the team. So my kid's geared up. He's ready to go. Tried out. He made a team. Now we're getting the old invoice, the league and team fees. What do you have for that?
With the league and team fees, we have had the experience most of the time the team will give you kind of a estimate on what those team fees are going to be up front. They're going to say, "Hey, your team fees are going to be X amount. With that X amount, you're going to get that covers your ice time for practices, your ice time for games, your facilities, whether you have off ice. It's going to include ref fees, tournament fees, league fees. All of those kinds of things are wrapped up into your team fee that you're going to pay. Again, read the fine print, know what you are expected to get from whatever fee you're paying, and make sure that the association or the league is providing you with the right amount of ice time, the right number of games that that you paid for, because essentially whatever was calculated into that fee, you should be getting something pretty darn close to what that is by the end of the season.
So, for example, what you're saying is I take these league fees, it's all outlined, it's all written down. Here's what it's covering. Let's say it's, I don't know, 15 home games is what they say. We're going to give you 15 home games and 35 practices or something like that. At the end of the season, tally it up and make sure that your number's accurate. And then it's somewhere, I mean, even if it's off one or two,
If it's in the
understand.
ballpark, right.
Right,
But if
right.
you're missing 10% of the home games you were expected to have, because, there was a failure at the ice rink and there was, some sort of a system issue or whatever it was, maybe the team intended to do 3 tournaments and you only did 2. There's a lot of different things that can go into what's expected to happen during the season and what actually happens. Just kind of keep an eye on that, make sure that you're getting what you're paying for is the bottom line.
Probably start that conversation with the team manager first, see what they advise and work your way up from there.
Yeah, we've had the experience where the coach and the team manager are usually pretty involved in what those team fees are going to be. Just, have communication with them. If you have questions, ask them. We've seen all kinds of things included with team fees. Everything, I mentioned earlier, all of your ice times, whether that's practices or games. Typically, the home team pays for the ice for games, which is why a lot of times you'll play a team at home and then you'll go to their rink and play. Some of these fees are going to include things like off ice training, video analysis, some other specialized training for like our goalies, some power skating. We've seen team fees where they include things like jerseys and bags and gloves and things along those lines. We've also seen that where we've had to pay for those things separately. Make sure you're paying attention to what's included in those fees. Again, you may be paying your $3,000 for your team fee and then you have to pay $300 on top of that for jerseys. Know what to expect by reading the fine print.
I think they should include stuff for parents in this. Like maybe, I always think like a gym membership, or maybe let me run those Zamboni ones. I know I've always wanted to try to drive a Zamboni. So you get one Zamboni icing that the kids are going to practice on afterwards to see what your skills are like. Now with these fees, and I don't know if you want to go down line by line here. I know you haven't outlined the fees. Is there an? I know there's discounts possible if you're a goalie. because goalies are hard to come by. And we have 2 kids, granted they're in 2 different organizations. I think if I'm not mistaken, I've seen discounts if you have multiple kids in the organization. Have you seen that? Am I recalling
I
that
think
correctly?
I've seen that, and again, that's something that's going to vary greatly depending on the association. I think I've heard of multiple player discounts. I've heard of if you're a parent who volunteers to coach, maybe you get a discount on fees. I think there's a lot of different things that happen there, but that's all gonna happen at the association level, and that's something you would need to inquire about with the team or the association that you're working with. But I do wanna mention that these fees are going to vary. Your team fees or your league fees are gonna vary greatly depending on a lot of things, depending on your player's age, depending on the level of play that they're gonna play, depending on where your rink is geographically. We're going to probably pay less here in our non-traditional market than somebody is in a more traditional hockey market, say up in Michigan or Minnesota or New England, something along those lines, because ice time and the amount you're paying per hour of ice is going to vary significantly. Generally, your house or rec leagues are going to be your less expensive leagues. They're going to be probably $1,000 or so, and that's just going to go up from there. Once you get into the local travel leagues, that amount's going to bump up. And again, remember, I'm just talking about team fees here. I'm not talking about equipment or travel cost or anything along those lines. Then you get into the more competitive levels where you've got the AA and AAA travel leagues, where I think players are going to be paying anywhere from 2,500 to $8,000 to $9,000 for league fees. And again, that's a huge band, a variation of what players can pay, but it's also very dependent on what that amount includes. And again, that's where I go back to read the fine print. I do want to mention too, there are prep schools and boarding schools out there that are specific for hockey. And those get really pricey in the 10,000 plus for the prep schools, and the boarding schools that are we've seen everywhere from 40,000 on up. Some of the hockey moms and I have a habit of when we're playing one of these prep schools or boarding schools or we see them, we just Google and try to find out what their tuition is so that we can get an idea of, what's out there. And that's what we found. So you've got a huge spectrum of team fee amounts and what you're gonna pay for a team.
So what Angela just said in a nutshell, if you don't already know, hockey is expensive. And no excuse for parents to ever get angry or be an asshole at the rink, but you kind of understand some why. Like if you're on a AAA team and you're ponying up, I don't know, $8,000 for your kid to play and they're getting their butts kicked every week or your kid's not getting enough playing time, that's a pretty substantial investment for poor hockey play and for your kid to ride the bench 3/4 of the game. You're reaping what you sow if you commit to these high level teams and your kid doesn't meet the standards that are needed for that team.
Right. And that's again, we've talked about this before. Some of these teams that are out there, some of these leagues, they're what we call, pay to play. If you've got the money, you can make the teams. You have to do your research. Again, read the fine print, figure out what's going to work for your family and for your player. I just point that out to note that there is just a huge variety and
Yeah,
discrepancies in what the fees are.
figure out what kidney you don't need. You left one of the right ones.
Gee.
All right, so the league fee.
Um,
So I've secured the ice time goes in it, the facilities, the Zamboni driver, and all that stuff. What else does it include? Are we talking like the jerseys and the gear your kids? I know some of the gear the kids get through the fees, or are they separate fees?
Well, it depends. Again, that's where you have to read the fine print. Sometimes the jerseys are included in that team fee, and sometimes you're paying extra for those jerseys. We have looked at jerseys and we've gotten jerseys that are what they call sublimated. So they're essentially printed jerseys or they're the more embroidered jerseys. A pair of jerseys for the season is going to run probably around $300. And I think sometimes those are kept separately because if a player plays on the same team for a couple of years in a row, maybe they wear the same jersey 2 years in a row. So it's not automatically included in the team fee if you don't need another jersey the next year. Socks are usually included in that jersey fee.
Yeah, socks. It's that one company that makes them, the paper mache sock factory, because you buy the socks and within 2 practices or 1 damn game, they've already got holes in them and look like crap. I don't know why they don't make those things out of Kevlar or something more better quality, but man, those things, I have better gold toes. My gold toes that I buy at a bag, a dozen for 20 bucks are better at me scraping my foot across the concrete in my driveway than these things are going across the ice. Rant
Okay,
over, I'm
can
sorry.
can I remind you that when our oldest was at a school where he had to wear a uniform, the uniforms came from a company and they called them iron knee pants. They were not supposed to get holes in the knees of these uniform pants. Guess who had holes in the knees of his pants within a week of wearing them?
I'm sorry. I know he had holes in his knee. What was the company's name again?
It was I think it was an LL Bean, like, uniform, like, uniform
Say the name
pants or a
again.
school
Just
uniform. It
please
was
say the
called
name again.
I think it was Iron Knee.
I put it together. Irony. Irony.
Jesus.
Irony. They say it's irony, but the ironic of the irony, they aren't
Jeez.
ironies.
Okay, well, maybe you should ask them about making hockey socks. They
All
were
right.
clearly not successful in school uniform pants.
Okay, so we have jerseys, we have socks. And now I'm looking, I'm watching AAA kids walk in my kids' rink. They all have the little warm-up suits. They all have we've never really gotten the big gear bags except Sam, our varsity player, got one. They come in with the gear bags that are, I think those are extra cost too, on top
Yes,
of
and,
everything.
again, I'm gonna go back to sometimes those are included in league fees, sometimes you're gonna pay extra for them. Sometimes teams are not going to be concerned about all the players having matching bags. Some teams are concerned about all the players having matching bags. That's again going to go back and depend on the association and on the coach.
And then you're saying the team requires or doesn't require it, but 90% of the team has the bag, and now your kid's kind of peer pressured into getting a bag.
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends. Sometimes we went for years without having team bags and it was not a big deal. And then I think that's kind of almost come into fashion, at least with the teams that we played on over the last few years. But just again, want parents to be aware that some of these teams will, quote, require a team bag, everybody having the same color helmet, the same type of gloves, all of that kind of thing can come into play. And I think a lot of that typically starts happening when you get into these travel leagues and travel teams, is when they really want to kind of look, I don't know, quote unquote, more professional.
I shared this subject on our Facebook page, Parked Out Parents, look us up. And one of the parents said, yeah, they forced us to buy warm ups to wear before every game. And they wound up, the kids would wear suits and ties before every game. She's like, it was a waste. We bought two warm up suits and wound up not using them.
And then you had to buy the suit with the tie for the kid to wear to the game, which that's another expense.
All right, let's get moving along to our next subject. Are we there yet? Rinks and road trips. Angela, additional cost. Keep that
Right.
checkbook out.
Yeah, so keep that checkbook out. What we
I'm
just kind of
sorry. I'm
went
sorry. I keep saying checkbook. Who the hell has a checkbook? Really?
Okay, check
I
well, we're
apologize.
old. Credit card. Keep your credit card out. So, what we went through already is all of the required fees, the things that you have to have when you're joining a team. And then I want to talk about like all of the expenses that come up throughout the season. Things that you're going to be paying extra for in terms of keeping your kiddo on the ice, going to the games, all of that sort of thing. We mentioned this early on, in our episodes that we were unaware you had to sharpen skates. But guess what? You do have to sharpen hockey skates fairly regularly, and that's can be an expense.
All these expenses Angela's are she's going down, it's like a zit. They just show up at an opportune time, you know? I'm thinking I'm gonna get a nice, oil change for my truck or, buy me something nice for my man cave, and then it's like, "Hey, dad, we're gonna get some skate sharpening, and we have an emergency tournament we're gonna hit next week," but continue, the skate
Right.
sharpening.
Well, so skate sharpening, we have utilized the local rink or a local hockey shop a lot of the times, and we're paying somewhere between $8 and $20, depending on the location and who's doing it, to get the kids skate sharpened. And that's going to happen every couple of weeks, quite honestly. And reminder, Henry needs a skate sharpened before tryouts this weekend. That's a pretty regular expense that you can have with sharpening skates. Something that came out when our oldest was starting hockey that we have learned to grow or learn to love, I guess, love and hate, is a Sparks machine, or essentially like a machine that will you can sharpen your skates at home. The cost of that machine is somewhere between $900 and $1,400.
It seems like it would be worth it just to buy one of those and then charge kids like 10 bucks a pop. I mean, it would pay for itself in a short amount of time, right? I don't know what the
It
maintenance
would.
of them are.
Yeah, I don't and I didn't dive into a lot of the maintenance, but you do have to get new grinding stones on those, and it's the website indicated about every 60 sharpenings, and they're about 75 bucks a piece.
Man,
So
I was a master grinder back in the '90s at the old Haven't I Say Cafe club, dance club.
oh,
Hell
geez,
yeah. So,
gross.
fun fact, Angela drove a Sparks machine from Minnesota to Kentucky because our coach has one and he traveled with it. It made the journey with us to nationals.
Right, and one of the reasons that our coach travels with that Sparks machine is, again, we're in a non-traditional market. Some of the cities where we're playing really don't have any hockey stores nearby or shops that can do a professional sharpening. We have that as a backup just in case situation. But we've also been at tournaments, and there's a dad there that has a Sparks machine. They set it up on the table in the hotel lobby, and all the kids are coming down getting their skates sharpened. That's something that it could be worth an investment, but just to mention that that's out there.
Now you're gonna talk about replacement blades, keeping a set of replacement blades just in case your kid's blade breaks or if something bad happens on the ice, the blade pops off or breaks or shatters or you get a scratch. I don't know what the hell can happen to it, but whatever. Is it beneficial to keep a sharpened are they sharp? Are they sharp when you buy them? Do you buy them and you get them sharpened and then they're ready to go if you need them in an emergency? Or could you or how hard are they to pop out and put in?
Well, I do know they're fairly easy to pop out and put in. I have done that. The replacement blades we didn't start doing until our oldest got to kind of that U16 high school level, and especially the high school level because we were traveling again in a non-traditional market to places that you couldn't just go to the pro shop inside the rink and buy a new set of blades.
Yeah, we're looking at you,
Um,
Lexington.
exactly. There's no pro shop where you can go buy blades quickly. Whereas before, when we were traveling to these hotter hockey markets all the time, it wasn't a big deal. And it's also not a big deal for your younger players who are not able to put the velocity on a puck to break the blade or put enough weight or velocity on the skate itself while they're skating to break or damage a blade. So, again, just note that that may be something you want to look at, especially for an older player or a player who's playing in a higher competitive league, or you're
Absolutely.
in an area where you can't just go buy a new set of steel at the shop inside the rink.
Absolutely true, because I've yet to see our 12U, anybody on his team or any game for that matter with the 12U where a blade breaks or something happens like that where it needs to be replaced. I've seen it for the teenagers.
Right,
Yes,
right.
a certain age, you're gonna start seeing this.
Yeah, and we started seeing that around U14, I think was the first time we saw that, and the first couple of times it happened to someone on our team, we were lucky enough to be in a location where there was a pro shop in the rink. They were able to go in, purchase the, new blade, not a big deal. So just, something to kinda keep in the back of your mind. That stuff can get expensive too, but, just wanted to mention that.
So
Go ahead.
on the subject of travel, let's talk we've had a travel episode but you need to factor in all the costs for traveling. Gas right now is $4 a gallon here. I'm sure it's worse as you drive elsewhere. It approaches $5 a gallon. Gas, food, lodging. We went to Minnesota, airfare, last minute airfare for emergency tournaments like nationals.
Right. Yeah. So again, just something to keep in mind as you are looking at what team your player wants to join or what team your players made during this tryout season. Start thinking about what those travel costs are going to be and start budgeting that in, setting your money aside for those things like you mentioned. But also keep in mind that, and we did an episode on this as well, when the kids are at these tournaments, when we're traveling, they want to do some sort of entertainment stuff. They want to go to the movies. We're going to hit a museum while we're out of town. They're gonna go to the arcade or bowling or go see a pro game or a college game. All of that costs money. Just make sure you're factoring that into kind of your decision in what team or what you can afford as a family for your player.
In our downtime on tournaments, we're eating bologna sandwiches and throwing a Nerf football in the hotel parking lot. Save money.
I mean, that's a very valid point, and I think a lot of people do that, and I think we can do an entire episode on how to save money while traveling. I think we mentioned that in an earlier episode. Some families are cooking in the hotel room
Yep.
essentially, or you're trying to get into one of those like residence inn type of hotels where you actually have a little bit more of a kitchen than your basic hotel room. I think we can do a lot more on that, but just wanted to mention that is another one of those varying costs that you're going to see when you have a youth hockey player.
Kids playing hockey, season starting. Now there's options. You have other stuff you can do. Your 11-year-old's not skating good enough? We have a skating lesson for that. Power skating. Come join us on Thanksgiving break for a power skating. We have a skills session. Your kids' slap shots suck? Come on down Christmas break. Here's a skill session. All of these are $2, $3, $400 a pop. What else am I missing, Angela? The camps? Oh, the holiday camp. You bored during Thanksgiving? Not enough hockey? Come join our holiday camp.
Right, and we did an entire episode, summer camps. There's all kinds of stuff going on, clinics. There's a million different things. You're going to start getting the emails from all of these different hockey associations, from all of these different tournament companies that are also putting on all of these other sessions and camps. And all of this stuff, they're all going to cost money. Most of the time, they're not required, but just know that those are out there. I think you can, in terms of like skating lessons or skill sessions, you may be able to find a player, maybe a high school or college player that can come in and work with your kid one-on-one during a open skate or a public skate or something along those lines. You may be able to pay them $30 or $40 a session. I've heard of that kind of thing that's a little less structured than some of these other skill sessions or power skating camps or holiday 3-on-3 tournaments or whatever is landing in your email box or on your social media feed.
It's inevitable. I think 80% of our kids hockey, it's December. We're kind of winding down the season. January's approaching. The season's winding down, and the email comes. Hey guys, you know that free weekend you have mid-January? We picked up a tournament in Cleveland. So the full schedule that you may get in August or September is not indicative of where you're going to be in January. Would you agree that there's always that, hey, we're going to pick up this tournament in mid-January, which is 3 weeks away. Who can show up? And you feel
Yeah, I think that happens a lot. I think it happens a lot just with games and tournaments, everything because of flexibility with ice or lack of flexibility with ice time, or hey, so and so up in Cleveland has ice time. Do you want to come up and play a couple of games? If we go up there, let's try to pick up two or three other games kind of thing. I think that's something to be aware of as well. And sometimes that comes with an extra fee. It's like, oh, yeah, we found this really great end of season tournament. We didn't have that calculated into the original team fees. So, yeah, it's going to be an extra 50 or $100 per player for us to go to this extra tournament.
Well, that's a pretty high level summary of what to expect when you have a hockey player. Now, Angela, there are ways to offset your fees, and I think this could be an episode in itself. I've actually gotten feedback from our listeners about this very topic. Tell us about fundraising.
Yeah, so I think fundraising, that's an entire other episode because there's various different types of fundraising. There's, association fundraising where they're trying to raise funds for the entire association as a whole, maybe to do some improvements at the rink or buy some practice equipment or whatever. There's also fundraising that's specific for your team. We've seen that. Hey, we're trying to raise funds because we're going to nationals. We want to be able to help offset some of the cost for that. And then there's also just individual side hustles and fundraising that individual parents are going to do, whether it's through some sort of fundraising that's set up through the association that's going to fund your child's fees individually, or it's something you're doing on the side. You pick up a side job, or you've got some other nonprofit that you're able to work and make a few extra bucks, or there's a lot of different things going on there. And I really think we need to do a full episode on that to really get into the nuts and bolts of how we and other families have made this work.
I agree. Fundraising is a topic in itself. Another example, and this is very popular, and again, we will cover this in a future episode, is if you have major sports team around you, like we have the Cincinnati Reds, we have the Cincinnati Cyclones ECHL team, and parents work there as vendors, beer vendors, or work in the concession stand, and it goes towards their fees somehow. And we'll set that up in the future. Fundraising, I can tell you, Angela, I was a top fundraiser 1989 selling world's finest chocolate candy bars. I think I may still hold that record because those world's finest candy bars, I would sit out in front of the grocery store in New Haven, Kentucky, and hustle those bad boys and sell the bejesus out of them. So
A
yes,
dollar a piece.
dollar piece, and those things were bricks back in the day. You see them now; they're like paper thin. You can read the newspaper through them.
That's right. That's right. I was gonna say we'll do a future episode on
Absolutely.
that. Put a bookmark on that one, and we'll really dive into that.
Life moves pretty fast. What's your reflections on this episode?
I think we're very lucky that we've been able to afford and manage for our kids to play hockey. I think we're also lucky that we're in this non-traditional market where the costs have been somewhat reasonable compared to what we've seen in other parts of the country.
And there are organizations out there. We talked about Patrick Michael and Hockey Gear for All that will help out. I know people have done GoFundMe's and fundraisers for families in need. So there are ways to get help out there. But yeah, we are lucky. It is an amazing sport. Unfortunately, it's one of the most expensive sports out there. But in my opinion, and I'm sure Angela's opinion as well, our 12-year journey, it's been well worth every penny spent. You can't trade money for the time we spent with our kids and making new friends.
Absolutely. And the joy that it's brought to us watching our kids be able to do something that they love has been really great. And the relationships that they've built and that we've built over this time. And all the life lessons that they've learned through hockey, I think are pretty amazing as well. I don't think you can put a price tag on some of that, but yes, it was expensive. But
You do
yeah,
cringe when you see that that stick snap on the ice of the game? You kinda like,
yes.
I've got a tip of the week this week. Let's hear yours first."
Okay, so my tip is do your research, research the cost of the teams, the leagues, where the best place to get skate sharpenings are, and do some bargain shopping for that equipment. I've mentioned it before, Sideline Swap, eBay, Facebook Marketplace are great sources for gently used equipment. And then I mentioned earlier shopping that off season in the off season for that equipment that's last year's model. It's just like going out to buy your car. Don't buy the 2026, buy the 2024. It's the same thing, you just get it a whole lot cheaper.
Almost on the same subject. Mine is, don't try to keep up with the other families. Don't keep up with the Joneses or the Smiths with your kids' equipment. You're gonna get a kid that comes out there and their parents have sprung for the brand new stick. Oh, man, this thing is hyper light. It's brand new. It was just manufactured last week, just designed last week. They have a top of the line helmet. They have the most expensive skates. Don't try to keep up with them. If your kid's playing good in mid-level gear or used gear, great, amazing, but don't try to keep up just because other people buy. It's just like if your neighbor buys a Mercedes Benz, a 2026, but you're rolling around in a Nissan Altima. If it runs, if it works for you, keep it. Don't try to keep up with the other families. Would you agree?
I couldn't agree more. Again, that's why I mentioned bargain shopping. Get that gently used equipment. They're kids, they're going to outgrow it quickly. You're going to be able to find that. It does get harder when they get to be teenagers and they're in that adult size gear. It gets harder at that point. It gets harder to find good used equipment and gets harder to bargain shop because they're in adult size stuff. But for the kiddos, the young ones, all of the youth and junior sizes, yeah, don't keep up with the Joneses at all. Whatever works, it works. Do what's right for your budget.
I mean, how many times did Sam come home as like, little Jimmy he just got the brand new 2025 whatever stick, and I want one. And we're like, no, you're fine. You're good with what
No.
you have. And then Sam ends up outscoring the kid by a double at the season. So clearly it's not the stick. Let's get to our outro. We'll do our small business shout out first. I'm going to shout out, and we're a podcast, just like there's other podcasts out there. Other people doing their hustle. Other people talking about hockey. So I'm going to shout out Beyond the Boards. It's another podcast. They are a little more in depth about the game. It's some hockey moms. They followed us on Facebook. We followed them right back. So good set of good set of women that do a little podcast, a little laid back, relaxed atmosphere. So give them a follow, give them a listen, but listen to us first. Angela, take us to our outro.
I appreciate everyone listening. Please follow, subscribe, and share. Share with all your hockey friends, anybody that you've met over the years. Let them know we're out there and we're chatting about hockey. Please leave us a comment or questions on whatever platform you're listening on or on Facebook or Instagram.
Thank you so much for all the listens, all the follows. We do have merchandise tagged at the top of our page. We are here to help, comment, like, follow, share. Give us your feedback. And remember, keep your stick on the ice. We are all in this together. Goodbye.
Up before dawn, can't feel my face. Coffee spilling all over the place. Forgot the sticks, we're turning around. Another weekend in some hockey.